Hello, everyone. I'm Fyruz Khan, and I'm back again. I know it's a bit late. It's 10 o'clock here, but I'm back because I recorded this session live in the evening, but there was a technical fault. Nobody could see my screen, so I had to delete that, and of course, re-record it again. I don't mind. It's not a big. It was not a big session. It was just 15 to 20 minutes. So yeah, sorry for that. Technology. That's what happens with tech all the time. There was a small technical glitch, and we did fix it. It wasn't our fault. There was a minor issue with the system. But anyways, let's get on with it. Let's wait for some students to join, or people can see it later. So yeah, just we'll take a minute. We'll see if any of our students have joined. Let's inform them. So yeah. Anyways, let's start, and people can join us later. Okay. So in the last class, we started by talking about iron park benches. My daughter is sitting on this bench. So these benches, iron park benches, were made by Mr. Jack Cadwalder, if you remember. Okay. And we saw his break-even chart. Now, break-even is an amount which is not a loss, which is also not a profit. Okay, so you're not making any losses, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, you're also not making not making any kind of profit. It's always good that if you're not making any profit, you should also not make any losses, right? This is especially vital for small businesses, for new startups, because money is finance is quite limited in small businesses, and you don't want your business to shut down at a very early stage. So that's break even point. So for Mr. Jack Cadwalder, if he wants to avoid losses, he at least need to sell 1,000 benches or raise £100,000 as a revenue. So if they make 100,000, if he makes £100,000 or sells at least 1,000 benches, then he will not make a loss. He will also not make a profit, but he will not make a loss. He will avoid making losses, right? And other than break-even point, in this break-even chart, you will have access to variety of information. Like fixed costs. You can see the fixed cost. Fixed cost is like what? Rent, wages, salaries, fixed cost, insurance. Then you have variable cost. Variable cost is, we know, raw materials and other miscellaneous expenses. Then you have, when you add those, you have total cost, profit, total revenue. So from break-even chart, you can see a lot of things. It's not just break-even point. Yes, that's the most crucial aspect of break-even chart, that how many units do you need to produce, or how much money do you need to earn, how much sales revenue do you need to avoid making losses. You're not making profit, but what is that point? So this is the point. And break-even chart will show you how much money you make when you produce X amount of units. Okay. So for Mr. Jack Cadwalder, break-even chart was very, very useful. And he makes the finest iron park benches, right? So we use break-even analysis for different things. For example, if the price went up, if we increase, let's say this is iron park bench. Now, one iron park bench, let's say it's sold for, let's say, £60. But if we increase it to £80, what will happen to the break-even point? Or if we reduce, the price, what happens to the break-even point? So break-even chart will help you with that, because sometimes you will increase the price of the product. Sometimes you will lower the price of the product. For example, let's say there's Christmas and you're selling in a bulk quantity. The demand is a lot. You want to use that. You want to take that advantage and lower your prices. So what is going to happen when you lower your prices? What will happen to your product when you increase the prices? Now, what happens? Let's say this is iron park bench, but what happens if you make iron bins, trash cans? Okay, that's a new product line. What will be the break-even point for a new product like a trash can? Okay, let's say you've made a phone, but then you know the break-even point of a phone, but what's the break-even point of a tablet? Right? So it tells you break-even point of different products that you make in your company, right? So and especially I've clearly emphasized on this point. If you're starting up, because when you start up, your money is tight, you have a lot of bills to pay, you do not have a loyal customer base, nobody knows you. So when you start up, you at least need you at least need around 4 to 5 years for people to know you, right? So when you're starting up, knowing the break-even point is very important. It's very pertinent because you do not want to make a loss. At least you want to reach your break-even point so that you can pay off your rent, your wages, your salary, and other expenses. So for if you are starting a business, let's say you're starting a restaurant business, try to figure out what's your break-even point. How many, let's say, how many customers do you need every day to break even, not to make a loss? How much money do you need? How much sales revenue do you need every day or per month to avoid making losses? Okay, to just break even, which equals the cost. So think about that, right? Um, and if you change your suppliers, what's the break even point going to be? Okay, so yeah, so you need break even point for many things. What happens if the price of the product went up or went down? What will happen to the break even point? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? um, what happens if you introduce a new product line? Of course, the break even point for that product line will be different. It'll have nothing to do with the existing break even point because that's specific for some other product. It's very crucial for new businesses because they cannot afford to make losses, right? And what happens if you change suppliers? Let's say you're making iron park benches, you get the iron from Russia, but now if you get it from China, what happens to the cost? What happens to the break even point? Because I'm sure the costing is going to be different. It is not going to be the same, right? Great. Let's go ahead. So now, one more thing is that break even point, yes, it shows fixed cost. Now, the problem, we will talk about the limitations with break even chart or break even point. Now what happens is that break even chart shows you fixed cost, it shows you variable cost, it shows you, of course, it shows you break even point, it shows you the profit total cost, it shows you total revenue, fine, it shows you a lot of vital information, but it misses one thing. It misses stocks. Stocks means, let's say you make jeans. So you may have stocks of jeans. You may make chips. You may have stocks of chips. Because let's say today you've made 100,000 units of chips, but those chips may not be sold. Let's say you've sold 80,000 of them, 20,000 is remaining. So you will have stocks, and stocks will have a value in terms of money. Okay, it is valuable. You may have raw materials, you may have spare parts, you may have unsold goods, and all these things will have a monetary value. Let's say you have 20,000 jeans left. Each pair of jeans cost you 1,000 taka. So that's a lot of money. But we don't have any provision. We don't have any provision for stocks in break-even chart. Look, they will not show you the level of stocks. Now, that's the biggest problem with break even chart. So, the first problem is it does not show you the stock level, but stocks especially plays an important part in the manufacturing industry. Of course, in the service industry, you will not have stocks. Like we are an education institution, FES. We do not have stocks, right? We do not have piles of jeans or copies, no. But in a manufacturing company like Iron Park, who makes Iron Park benches, or who makes phones, or who makes jeans or T-shirts, will have stocks, and those stocks will incur a value. But that value, that stock level, is not represented on the break-even chart. So that's a big disadvantage. The break-even point does not consider stocks. Okay, so that's the first disadvantage. The second disadvantage is that, when you are doing business, you have an external environment, outside environment, which is not under your control. The economy, there may be recession, there may be a situation like pandemic. So break-even chart does not consider all those things. There may be competition. Let's say your break-even point has increased, or you're not doing well because of ongoing competition. So there may be so many things happening, right? Um, so it does not consider the external environment, the changes like recession or anything like pandemic or changes in technology, or it does not consider the competitors. So number two disadvantage number two is unchanging conditions. It does not consider the external condition, or that conditions may change, because in business the situation does not remain all the time. It does not remain the same all the time. The third is accuracy of data. Now, by accuracy of data, I mean because you've constructed this break even chart on the basis of past data, whatever has happened in the past, not in the future or not in the present moment. So, past data may not be accurate because that has happened in the past. It's not given that it's going to happen again in the future. Conditions will change. I've given you a Crocs example in the last class that they were forecasting their sales. They've done really well from 2004 to 2007. But then when they forecasted that the sales will be very good in 2008, everything turned around. They made a huge loss. Why? Because the market condition had changed. They saw that the designs were outdated. Okay, so relying on past data most of the time is a risky affair. Okay, it's a risky business because what the future holds for you, you don't know. So it's not reliable, to be dependent on past data. So the problems, the four limitations are: it does not represent the stock's output. Number two, unchanging conditions. It does not consider that business conditions may change. It has an external condition, external situation, or external environment. Then accuracy of data. The data are not accurate because it's based on past data. And then you have nonlinear relationship. This is quite interesting. Nonlinear relationship means, again, one of the biggest problem with break-even chart is all the costs are represented on a straight line. Now, in reality, it may not be that, because if you consider this total revenue line, TR, let's say you're doing very well, the quantity has increased. Now there's a Christmas season right here. And you feel that in order to leverage the season, in order to take a full advantage of the season, you will give discounts, you will reduce the price. In order to sell more, you will reduce the price during Christmas, give discounts. What will happen is that you're selling more, but your total revenue or profit may fall. So what will happen is that it'll rise, and then when you give discounts, it'll fall a little bit because you're not charging the usual price. It is a bit low. It is less. Yes, so it'll fall a little bit, but that is again not represented on the break-even chart. I would say it's misrepresented, and it's just shown on a merely straight line. That's quite lazy. So it shows that it's always going to increase. It's always going to up. No, it may have ups and downs. That is harsh reality. Okay, so that is non-linear relationship. So we've talked about the first problem is it does not represent stock. It does not consider unchanging situation, accuracy of data. It's based on past data. Number four, non-linear relationship. The fifth one is multi-product businesses, by which I mean is that you have one break-even chart for iPhone. Now, if you want to make a break-even chart for iPad, you need a new break-even chart. Now, for a big company, they may have 10, 11, 12 different kinds of products. Then that may become very complicated and complex, because for 10 different products, you need 10 different break-even chart. So that can be a big problem, right? So think about big businesses who has multi-products, different products, okay? So they will not be able to show and represent everything on one break-even chart. It'll make things complex and complicated, and you need to make 12 different break-even charts for 12 different products or categories, because big businesses may have 9, 10, 11 kinds of products, or even 4 or 5, right? So that's one disadvantage. The last disadvantage for today is stepped fixed cost. And we have spoken about this in the last class. Again, this is very interesting. Listen to me with all attention. Now, a lot of students asked me in the past, sir, fixed costs, they may also change in the future, because, let's say your rent is 60,000. Your rent is not always going to be 60,000. It will be, or it may be 65,000 after 2 years, because we know rents increases, right? So what happens then? How do you consider that fixed cost? Yes, fixed cost also changes. We're not always told that by teachers or by traditional books, but in the new syllabus, I'm quite surprised Edexcel and Cambridge has mentioned, especially Edexcel. So fixed cost may change. Let's say you've rented an office, and that office, the rent of that office is 60,000. After 2 years, it may go up. So when it's 60,000, I know it's straight line. But when it goes up, you cannot show that. You cannot, again, represent that on a straight line, because it has gone up. So you have to go up and draw a straight line. This is known as stepped up fixed cost. It has changed by 5,000. That's why it has gone up. And then again, it's straight. Let's say it'll stay the same for 1 year, then it may become 70. So it'll go up again, and then again straight line. But this is not represented on your break-even chart. They consider that it's just one straight line. But the matter of the fact is, in reality, fixed costs also change after a certain period of time. It may be after 2 years, after 3 years, 4 years. Okay, even electricity bill changes, right? Because of unit cost. The unit cost will not always be the same. Let's say the unit cost was the same for electricity bill for the last 4 years, but now the government has changed and they have decided to change it. So it'll go up and then straight line. If your rent is the same, straight line. If it changes, it'll go up and then it'll be represented on a straight line. So the big problems, limitations of break-even analysis are, number one, it does not represent your stocks. Output stocks has a lot of value, right? Monetary value. How do you represent that? Secondly, conditions may change, external conditions may change, and break-even chart does not consider that. It's based on past data, so you don't know the quality and accuracy of it. It is questionable. Non-linear relationship, I told you that the lines are linear, and that's quite unrealistic. Sales may go up and down. So yeah. Multi-product businesses, you need different charts for different products. So if you have 5 products, you need 5 break-even charts, and that will make things complicated and complex. mistakes. You don't want that to happen. Last but not the least, it does not show, it does not display stepped fixed cost. Stepped fixed cost means your fixed cost may change after 2 years, so they don't show that. They will show that fixed cost always remains the same for lifetime, but that's not certain. Fixed cost will change after a certain period of time, right? And then we started with this. Okay. The use of break-even analysis. It's a very common question. Why do you need break-even analysis? So with that, I will end my class. Sorry for the mess up. It wasn't my mistake. It was a tech failure, I would say. Nobody could see my screen, so I deleted the previous live video. Great. If you haven't subscribed to our Facebook page, just press the like button. It takes a second. We have around 40 videos on our YouTube channel, so subscribe it right now. Share with your friends and family. Exams are going on. I have a lot of Edexcel, videos, live videos, so students can watch and learn. So good night, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new lesson. Bye bye. I'll see you for now.